We're now live on Facebook. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live stream. We are so excited to have you here with us. Everybody's muted, so you won't hear them yet. And we're still getting latecomers. Here comes Chuck. But we're just really thrilled to have you all join us. I think we had talked to you a little bit about our Storm the Hill initiative back in May. And we were really excited that USA connected us with Hiring America. And we'll hear about that in a little bit, so that we could have a producer and his crew just follow us along on our virtual Storm the Hill. And for those of you who missed it, it was just a day of advocacy on behalf of the military spouse community, where we had a great group of military spouses go up on Capitol Hill virtually and visit with their legislators and visit with their staffers and actually talk to them about military spouse employment issues. And we are a little bit hesitant about doing it virtual because we didn't know how it would turn out. And in reality, it turned out better than we had anticipated and better than doing it live, because what we got was military spouses from 17 different states and 2 different countries, where, you know, if we'd done it live, I think we would have been limited to maybe the DMV and maybe Delaware or Pennsylvania. So like you see Jennifer Barnhill, who's in my top right-hand corner, she's coming with us from California, and Aaron Hodgkinson, who is with us from England. So we would not have gotten that otherwise. So you're not here to hear me talk. So I just want to introduce everybody while we're in the introductory phase. And we're really excited to have our friends from Hiring America and USA join us today. So I just want to, like, if you wave your hand, everybody's muted, but if you wave your hand when I introduce you, that way people can get to know you. From USA, we're pleased to have Mike Kelly, the Assistant Vice President of Military Advocacy. I think everybody knows Mike. I think that's the first time anybody's heard your title, Mike. That's kind of funny. Actually, you know what? I'll unmute you so you can say hi to everybody. Maybe. There you go.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, that was easy.
That was it.
I'll just unmute everybody so you can say hi in turn. And then next we have Maggie Hahn, who is the Strategy and Client Director for Product Development. And USA, we're pleased to have Mike Kelly, the Assistant Vice. Okay, maybe that'll work out better. So Maggie.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be with you all this evening.
Thank you. And then we have Chuck Bunch and JJ Montanaro, also from the Military Advocacy Group, and they're the relationship managers. So you will see them at many of the events that we go to.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Great work. This is exciting.
This is very exciting.
Looking forward to it.
And then from Hiring America, our new friends, Bill Deutsch, who's the CEO and Executive Director. Bill, there you go.
Hi, nice to meet you. Sue, thank you for inviting us.
Oh, no, thanks for making the video available for everybody. This is so exciting. We also have Felipe Lenz, who's a managing producer for Hiring America. Felipe.
Hi, everybody.
He is just a little sick of us because he was with us for like a month. I think he was my best friend. Never. Other than the people you see on screen from NMSN, I think Felipe was actually my best friend for that month. I think we traded like 10 emails a day. It was fun. And then as a bonus, we have Tara Bray, who is our social media manager, who is fantastic. And we've been working with Tara for the past month to figure out how to bring this to you and make it live. So Tara, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. This is exciting.
Very cool. And then for our spouses, this is going to be a surprise for most of them. We have Nora Anderson from Fort Campbell joining us. And then we also have Jennifer Barnhill from California and Tatiana Ray from Alexandria, Virginia. Tatiana and Jennifer have not seen the video, so they're going to be surprised along with the rest of you. So this is very exciting, especially Jennifer. I don't even know how you're holding it together because, oh, you're holding it together because you don't know how much you're in the video. All right.
I don't know. Ask me after it's
You're probably going to want to strap yourself in because you're going to be surprised. Other than Nora, you're all over it. This will be fun. So we're really appreciative that you guys are all here. And, you know, none of this would have happened without USAA. And I just wanted to talk about, and Maggie, if you could just talk a little bit about how you even thought to connect us with Hiring America, right? Because it was last year where we made our first video. You were making a video about spouse employment and you were able to feature one of our roundtables, but you really talked about Mrs. George, who is an entrepreneur. Her husband was retiring, and you know, she was talking about how she was able to, you know, maintain her career just by having her own business. And so Liz had talked about how she wouldn't have been able to do that if, you know, she'd worked in a traditional environment. And then you also featured Trish Allegra Smith, who we know, and, you know, who's a veteran, but also military spouse, who said that, you know, she was in the Air Force. And then when she transitioned, she found that the only way for her to really maintain a career was to go into business for herself. and so found herself being a photographer. I think the video that came out of that was amazing because you interviewed, our friends from Bunker Labs and people from DoD, and really brought out like the issues that military spouses face. So how did you even think to connect us?
It's an amazing story, and I think that it comes from Mike Kelly being at the helm, an amazing military advocacy team for USAA, and the willing to kind of open that aperture and see the struggles and challenges that military spouses face around the globe. It's not just here in CONUS, it's OCONUS. It's people that actually have a career that they have to put on hold while they're following the loved one. And we were brainstorming around a table, and we have an amazing partnership with, of course, our Hiring America friends. And we're like, what do we want to feature this year? And it was all about the military spouse. And so I took out my calendar and I said, this is what we really need to highlight. We need to highlight those that are out there that are out there doing great things with military spouse employment, underemployment, those that are making a difference, those that are saying that not only is military spouse, you don't have to work a 9-to-5 job. You can work as an entrepreneur. How do you launch that career? How do you get started? How do you make those connections? And I think it's like anything else in this world. What you don't know it until somebody else shares that with you. And the nice thing, and I think the fantastic thing about the platform that you have created at National Military Spouse Network is that connection piece. And so it was very easy to make that leap and say, you know what? Why don't we go to Arlington, Virginia? We're going to be at a roundtable. And then the next day was the inaugural face-to-face, of course, Storm the Hill, which turned out to be an amazing opportunity for military spouses to get out there and talk to those that are making policy decisions, listening to the plight of a military spouse and the challenges that we face every single day when we're getting our PCS orders and we're moving around the country. How do we make a difference? And so it really was a natural connection. And of course, Mike and JJ and Chuck, everybody's on board because of course, Mike, JJ, and Chuck have military spouses that of course sacrificed, and they're the ones that put their careers on hold or created something in that space in the period when they were active duty. They created themselves at that duty station where they were located. So it really wasn't a hard sell. And I think because USAA is committed to helping military spouses and veterans find that, meaningful career upon transition for, of course, our veterans, but our military spouses, it was just a very natural, very, very natural connection to make. So we were thrilled that, of course, our partners were all on board and they were so happy to follow us to Arlington.
I think the only downside to doing it virtual was that we didn't get to see Maggie and we didn't get to see Emily and friends, at the USAA on the Hill, where we were really looking forward to actually convening everybody and being together. And that was the only downside because we're really used to having Maggie with us when we go do these events, as everybody knows. But no, this is exciting. And I kind of feel bad for Felipe because he just jumped into it and he's like, I'm sure you were told, hey, you're going to go on the Hill and you're going to capture these spouses and it's going to be really dynamic. You're going to go to all these congressional offices and it's going to be awesome. Oh, now do it on, do it online, make it interesting. Like, what was that call like, Felipe?
It seemed challenging at first, and I think this was the first time we had tried to capture a virtual event. So I was trying to manage expectations, if you will, because we hadn't done something like this. I mean, like everybody else, this was all new to us. But I think one of the things that we learned is, what makes a great video is really the story. And it's not like the bells and whistles that you might be able to put on it. It's the story that are being told. And I mean, really all the credit goes to you, Jennifer, Nora, Maggie, everybody that participated in Storm the Hill and was willing to talk to us, to be open about their experiences and share all those things. Because without that, then there is no video. And I think what makes it so impactful is that the audience is able to hear these personal experiences. They're able to hear everybody's personal stories and then see themselves in you all. And that's what really makes an emotional video. So again, it's really all credit to you all who participated. And we just did our thing, but that's totally secondary to everything that you guys did.
We have a little bit of time, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes, because we have a lot of military spouses out there who are influencers, who are now stressed to, have to create dynamic content for their own websites and their own, like Instagrams and Facebooks, because now they're not able to get out there to events. So do you have any tips for them about how they can create like good, compelling content based on what you said about telling a story? I mean, is that the biggest factor, is find a good story to tell and everything else is secondary?
Definitely. And I'll give you a couple of other production tips that are always applicable, even in the best case circumstances. Make your audio sound as good as possible. That's an easy, cheap thing that you can do. Get a microphone, make sure that the audio sounds really nice, because for some reason, people can forgive kind of subpar video, which is something that we have to deal with right now in the kind of virtual space. But if the audio is subpar, then even the best looking video kind of feels lesser. And music is super important. I mean, think about what the tone that you're going for in your video is, whether it's emotional, inspirational, you're trying to hype somebody up, you're trying to, whatever feeling it is that you're trying to evoke, look for that music. And there's a lot of really great stock music licensing websites out there that have great pieces of music that you can license for a really nominal fee. And that really goes a long way towards just really elevating whatever it is, whatever the brand is, whatever the purpose of the video is. So those are, I think, two things that I would look for.
So I remember when I first saw the rough draft, and I remember calling you and saying, Felipe, I don't know where you found the score for the video, but it was the perfect score for the story that you were trying to tell. And you laughed at me because you're like, I don't know how you knew that I actually start with the score and then I tell the story. And so that, I mean, I think that is a really good tip for all those spouses out there who are creating content, is find that score, because you're right, because it was kind of like, you'll see it in 3 minutes. So if you're not already, get on now, because we're going to show it in 3 minutes. But you start and it's kind of like it goes up and it goes down, and then you have the emotion, and then you're going to get to see Susie's reaction. But like, you made Susie Schwartz cry. It was just a thing of beauty. And you had 6 minutes to evoke that kind of emotion. So I mean, you're masterful. I thought that was really awesome.
Well, thank you. I would say another tip is just be creative. For this video, we asked, Jennifer submitted some cell phone footage of herself that we asked her to record. We recorded both a single kind of camera of whoever the speaker was, and then a screenshot of everybody on screen. So we would have that variety. I would say just get creative with the assets that you have at your disposal. And with all those things combined, you can definitely create compelling videos, even virtually.
And you did emphasize that when we caught all this was, we did the Storm the Hill. We had a full day of programming, but we did just record everything. And we recorded it on Zoom and took it to the cloud. And so that is something that you all have at your disposal just on the free Zoom platform. And then I think other people might have used the iPhone. So it's not like you're going out there and buying this very expensive equipment. It's stuff you probably already own. So no, I appreciate you sharing your tips and with our spouses, because I know a lot of them, we hear from a lot of them. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sick of making content, but this is a way to make a different kind of content. So we have like 2 minutes before we're going to show the video. So does anybody have any questions for Felipe? If you have a question on Facebook, post it and we'll hear it here. But of the spouses here, because I know you all create content for different people, do you have any questions? You have to have a question, otherwise we're just going to sit here and tap dance. Oh, so a question from Facebook came in and they want to know how Storm the Hill started. That's a great question. And now we only have 1 minute to tell you how. So we really looked around at all the data that was around about spouse employment and unemployment, and everybody's putting out such great reports, really great surveys, really good data. And then they would just stop short of making recommendations about what we could do to change it. So we thought we can fill that gap and we can actually make some recommendations. And when I read a report, I would just read these reports and I'm like, okay, I either am too stupid to read this with a master's degree, or these are too complicated. So we worked with someone to make it really simple, to put it in layman's terms where anybody could just pick it up. And even if I wasn't in front of them speaking to them, they could just know immediately what they could do next. And so from there, from our first white paper, that formulated our policy agenda or our advocacy agenda. And then we're like, well, now we have to build a coalition of the willing. We have to go up on Capitol Hill and teach military spouses how to advocate for these issues, because it's not enough for organizations to care about these issues unless the legislators hear from military spouses. they won't care because they want to hear from their constituents, right? So that's how Storm the Hill started. And that is an excellent lead in. And that's why you're the PR person, Jennifer. That's an excellent lead into the video. So without any further ado, let's go watch the video. This is so cool. Great. We don't need this. And we don't need this.
Military spouses are a vital yet often underrepresented group within the workforce. But for over 10 years, the National Military Spouse Network has fought to change that, dedicating itself to the education, empowerment, and professional advancement of military spouses all over the world. Recently, Hiring America spoke with members of the National Military Spouse Network as they prepare to storm the Hill, an annual event sponsored by USAA, to raise awareness about the high military spouse unemployment rate and encourage policymakers to join in being part of the solution.
Happy Military Spouse Appreciation Day. You know what that means. It's time to storm. Let's do this.
Being a military spouse has its advantages and disadvantages. You meet incredible friends and incredible people because the people that are drawn to an all-volunteer force have this huge passion to serve, right? They believe in something bigger than themselves. But a lot of us came into the life with degrees and we're not able to use them. We're not able to find jobs. And that's a little bit frustrating. And even when we do find the perfect job, we're subject to directed moves every 18 months to 3 years. It's you're restarting your life every few years.
My husband is currently deployed. He left one day before my daughter turned 1 month old. So on top of being a brand new mom, trying to figure out what this new life and this new role is with this new human that you're responsible for, we are now in the midst of a global pandemic. So life is a whole new level of crazy that I never really thought I would hit. I had interviewed for a job I was really excited about, and they called me to say, well, we hear that you'll be moving out of the area soon, so we're going to be giving the job to someone who we know will be in the area, which to me translates, your military spouse, you'll be leaving, we're giving this job to someone else.
I've been a military spouse for 14 years, and when I first became one, I was really naive. I didn't really know if it was an asset or a liability to tell employers that I was a military spouse, but we kept it secret. It was more the norm because we were worried that we wouldn't be hired if we told the future employer that we were military spouses. Thankfully, that is changing, but there are still some employers who don't really understand that just because you're only going to be somewhere for a short time, that doesn't mean that you're not a really valuable employee.
Knowing that I didn't get this job because I was a military spouse was heartbreaking. It was infuriating, and it lit a fire to make sure that this, one, didn't happen to me again, but two, I don't want another military spouse to hear those words, well, you'll be leaving, so we'll be giving that job to someone else. And so that's why Storm the Hill is so personal.
Military spouse unemployment sits at an high of like 24% right now. And that was before the pandemic. So we assume that it's going to go up. Our community is a community of doers. So we looked at that and we're like, we can spit out some solutions. So last year we wrote our first white paper. The next step needed to be building a coalition of the willing who would go up Capitol Hill to speak to legislators to encourage them to support these initiatives and to remember that military spouse unemployment is 6 to 8 times the national average. So we took them to Storm the Hill and it was pretty amazing. And because we came up to the Hill with the problems as well as the solutions, all of our recommendations that required policy changes were introduced into legislation. I was so proud of everyone because they went up on Capitol Hill to advocate for our entire community and they knocked it out of the park.
USAA has been partnering with National Military Spouse Network for the last 10 years, and we are so thrilled to be the presenting sponsors for the white paper, as well as Storm the Hill. Storm the Hill is such an amazing experience. It's an opportunity for us to talk to the policy and decision makers that are out there sharing the concerns that military spouses have about keeping their career on the move.
Storm the Hill this year is a little bit different. Now it's not in person, it's virtual.
We are bringing in spouses from around the country, as a matter of fact, around the world. And that's actually the silver lining to what we're doing this year virtually. We're tapping into the resources of the military spouse community from all over, and they're able to get in there and talk to their representatives and share the concerns.
The whole Storm the Hill contingent will participate in a 2-hour training session. We'll teach them how to find their legislators, how to contact their legislators, give them talking points, and then release them to go storm the Hill.
We really definitely want to combine that personal story with fact. Because I'm a reporter, I have familiarity with getting in touch with political officials and representatives. But initially, I was kind of shocked when I started reporting that it was so easy. And I think sometimes we are hesitant to request a meeting because it seems really formal, and they intentionally make it formalized. It says, which are the list of participants, and that's you. And it's okay if it's just you.
And with that, I'm releasing you to storm. I feel like I'm releasing ladybugs or something.
So I'm going to call Representative Panetta's office. Yes, hi, my name is Jennifer Barnhill, and I would really love to speak with someone from your office regarding military spouse employment opportunities.
I get emotional because I think of the handful of spouses that will come alongside us in storm. They're storming on behalf of around 500,000 military spouses.
I want the world to know that military spouses are not looking for a handout. We are gritty and resilient and adaptable more than any other group of people I know. We are just looking for support in fighting this cause.
We're all on mute so nobody can hear it, but that is amazing. And I get emotional every single time I see that. I feel like you guys should be off mute so you can react too. But I mean, I'm going to go back to the spouses and get reactions, but I'm going to let it just sink in for a while because that's the first time you guys are seeing it. And Susie's not crying, so I'm a little disappointed. But really, I want to talk to Bill and Mike for a little bit because I mean, you guys, you are the ones, Bill, you come from a production background and then you made the decision to just focus on veteran employment. And, if you could just tell us why you did that and why it's important for these stories to get out, we'd all love to hear it, because we like to know when organizations are doing good work and how people can support it and what drove you to, join this fight. Oh, I need to unmute you.
So thank you. First of all, Felipe, what a great job with that. Every time I see that, it's just such a great segment, and I think one of our best, frankly. And so I just want to thank Felipe and the Hiring America team and the USAA team and Yusu. It's such a. I hope that when people view this segment, that they really understand the challenges that military spouses face and creates that awareness. When we started Hiring America, when we launched the show in 2013, I saw that there was a need. Veteran unemployment was significantly higher than the national unemployment rate in the country. And I felt that there was a need to create awareness around career, educating, creating awareness around career opportunities for veterans, but also educating businesses of the value that veterans that would bring to their businesses and organizations. And as we launched the show, we also began to see the challenges that military spouses were facing. And they were similar in terms of the unemployment rate, which is actually much higher, and then the underemployment. And so as we became aware of that, we began, creating, spotlighting organizations on the program that were supporting military spouse employment, but also providing resources to the community. And I'm just really thrilled that, kind of in working with USAA, they brought us the attention of Yusu. And I think I just echo what Felipe was saying. We play such a small role. It's really organizations like, the National Military Spouse Network really is just, we're just happy to share that story. And it's so meaningful. And when I see that video that you just showed, it makes me feel so good that we're able to contribute in some way to what you're doing. And then and I say this all the time, but I mean, it's true, is that what we do is so much better in working with partners like USAA. I tell them, Mike and Chuck and JJ and Maggie, I mean, just such a outstanding group of people to work with. And Sue, it's like, and to Felipe was saying, it's like, without the stories, it's like it's like really your story. So I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. And thank you for letting us share your story.
Well, then it's a mutual love fest, because we love that you're amplifying the issues for military spouses, because for so long, and I think Susie and everybody else on here can attest, it's, military spouses were kind of like the add-on, right? So you had the veteran, and if you had time, maybe you could care about the spouse issues. And so it's really impressive that, organizations like yours and organizations like USA don't put a focus on the spouse as maybe the gatekeeper or the conduit to the service member, but as the spouse, as the individual who has these issues and who has needs. So we really appreciate that. And I mean, I think I could just say exactly the same thing and add on more for Mike and his team, because we really appreciate your support over the past 10 years. And Mike, you and I have been working together even longer than that when I was in a VSO position, but I really appreciate it. So why do you guys care so much about military spouses?
Well, we've actually had a shift in our strategy from a philanthropic engagement standpoint, as well as our event support. Right, so the greatest need is for military spouses. We saw the numbers in the video, which again, great video. I've only seen it once before, and I still got a little tear in my eye from that. I'm a softie at heart, but it's really going where the need is, and that's what advocacy is all about, right? It's advocating for and supporting those things that are important to your key audiences, and military spouses are a significant key audience for USAA, because we know that they're, the commander-in-chief sink house, and they're the ones who are making the financial decisions most often. And that's why we focus so heavily on military spouses. And the storytelling is the greatest impact, right? I mean, it's such a powerful motivator. I have a military spouse. I'm not a military spouse, but I'm motivated to go out and do more after watching that video. And that's why we partner with Bill and Felipe and Anne, who's recently left that team, because they are such good storytellers. Yep. And it has such impact, and it creates so much more opportunity, exponential opportunity, because more people are pulled into this chance to serve and engage and provide impact.
And I think what you say is really important, because I don't think that these videos are as important for our community. I mean, I think we can just, talk amongst ourselves all the times in our little silos, and that's great, but nothing changes until we bring in the external folks, right? Until we open up those apertures and bring in other people and start that cross-pollination. So our hope is that everybody will share the video, because it's your civilian friends who are going to be able to affect the biggest change, because they have to care. Like less than 1% of the population serves, less than 8% of the population has ever served. So in order for us to make any changes, we have to engage that 92%. So I really appreciate you saying that. So it was really interesting, though, after the whole Storm the Hill day. And I think you guys, we wanted to give you a little taste of that, because it was an exhausting day. I mean, the spouses can attest to that. And it was just so exhausting, and it was like cathartic. And we thought about this, like when we do this in person, we always have a happy hour afterwards, not so much for the drinking and the noshing, which is always nice, but really so everybody can tell stories about what happened during the day, and like who did they see, and what was your experience? Did you get any doors slammed in your face, or what was? And so when we did, when we had the virtual storm, we actually did a virtual happy hour, and everybody was telling stories, and we were really touched that Felipe captured this one story told by someone who's on here, and you can ask her questions afterwards, because she so perfectly encapsulated how we all felt at the end of the day. So let me just share that very quick clip before we go to the spouses. And Susie, you should just get John Schwartz in the room so he can just see this for himself.
Yeah, make sure Nordy watches.
I think he's probably right there. But it was just, she perfectly stated what we all thought. So I will just share that right now. Susie and I have been talking about this forever, where there's no perspective because we don't know where we came from. So it's a lot easier for spouses to say, we've lost so much. And I'm like, no, you can't say how much we've lost without remembering how much we've gained.
From being around from that blue ribbon panel, and then to see you guys now, it makes me happy. So,
don't cry, Susie.
Great. It's great.
Oh, we love you, Susie. We love you so much.
Well, because Susie's one of those people where it was her spouse I think her spouse was told to tell her to quit her job.
Yes. Yeah. Most of you already know that story. So to be there then when he was asked to resign from Squadron Command and to tell me to quit my job, and then to be in the Chamber of Commerce when Ms. Obama and Ms. Biden did the joining forces, and then to be in the White House when he's saying to all the agencies in the government, you find your way, you find it, everyone, whether you're interior, agriculture, I don't know, but you find the way to help military spouses. And so anyway, and now
Thank you, Susie, for paving the way for us working military spouses.
So I just thought that was just amazing. And General Schwartz is there with Susie. So now you need to tell the story, because you say that everybody has heard the story, but not everybody has heard the story. So do tell. You have to unmute yourself though.
Which story am I telling?
About why, like when you were told not to work anymore when you started getting into leadership positions.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's Squadron Command, and I went to work and I kept a secret for about 5 months, and then one night, that was when I used to go to the club on Friday night, and I said, "Oh, at work today," and as soon as I said it, I said, "Oh my God." So we got in the car and I told him what I did. And he's like, it's okay. But on Monday morning, I was called by the ops group commander, and he was called by the ops group. I was called by the ops group wife, and he was called by the ops group commander. And she said to me, is your job worth your husband's career? And I didn't know what to say. I thought she was kind of joking. And what they say to you, Nort?
Basically said that, it's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
It's either the wife gives up the job, or we'll find another place for you. And I said, well, you're going to have to find another place for me, because she's not going to give up her job. And thankfully, the circumstances there were such that they couldn't let us go right away. And in the end, Susie, she said, you don't think I can do this? Watch me.
Right.
And despite more than a few speeding tickets on I-5.
Yeah, right. So when I sat in the Chamber of Commerce later, so many years later, and listened to what they were, embarking on for military spouses, I mean, literally I was crying. And Nort is looking at me, and I know everyone in my row was like, this is not a wounded warrior program here. Not at some funeral or wake. What are you doing? And it was just overwhelming. And so I never forget that moment, and I know where we've come. And now to watch them launch businesses and do everything, but still, you got to keep fighting. You do have to keep fighting.
No, I think that's the thing, is like, you can't know where you're going. Thank you, General Schwartz. You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from. And I like to remind spouses that the blue ribbon panel was only in the mid-'80s. It was not that long ago that, people had to be censured and said, hey, you cannot count it as 2 for 1. You can't put the military spouses activities on, than OPR and APR. So it was not that long ago. So yeah, we have a lot left to do, but we've also done a lot. So thank you, Susie, for paving the way and for pushing so hard.
You're welcome. Maybe I should have put makeup on before I was going to be in a video. What do you think?
You're good. All right, so now I just want to get the reactions from the spouses who are in the video, because this was a huge surprise for you. What do you think? Jennifer, Tatiana, Nora, what do you think? You can unmute yourselves. Can you unmute you, or do I need to unmute? I need to unmute it. Jennifer, were you surprised?
I mean, a little bit. Well, not the video. The video, I'm just impressed by Felipe that he went through all of the stuff. Shout out to my husband for being the cameraman in Felipe's stead. But no, the process of storming was really exciting. As I mentioned in the video, I am a reporter, so reaching out to politicians isn't necessarily something that I've not done before. But what did surprise me was how there was that gap between what they already knew and what I could provide. And I think that was as a reporter, to me, I'm used to telling stories, but usually it's other people's stories, not my own. So this is a little different for me, sharing my own story. And that is something that I was really happy to do with you all, and to have that story elevated, because, you know, I might have a job today, but I don't know what my life's going to look like in a year or 6 months or what have you. You never know. So it was a really great experience.
And Jennifer, in addition to storming with us, she also wrote a bunch of articles around advocacy and how you do it and how you start. So those are on our site, but they're also like, we'll drop it in the chat on Facebook, Rihanna, afterwards. But there's some really, so if you're looking at how to get started, you know, look at our NMSN stuff, but also look at Jennifer's articles on advocacy. So Tatiana, as the only one here, Jennifer did it twice too, and Maggie, but Tatiana, you're the only spouse here who did it twice with us, once, you know, storming in person and then once online. So what do you think? What's the difference? What was memorable about being in person?
Well, it was my first time storming, period. My first time even visiting the building. So that first year was that kind of nervous energy about going, you know, and speaking with, you know, your congressmen and your senators about this such a heavy issue. So that was the memorable part and getting through it. And I think the big difference between it online and in person is online, you expand that net, you reach. You're able to engage with so many other of these senators and congressmen, and you can also bring in more spouses.
Yeah.
I mean, spouses who are possibly working during the day and can't get that leave, you're able to, you know, bring them into the fold because it is online. And they can still be connected to it without physically being here or physically visiting somebody on a work day.
So what was the most memorable part about storming though, or a surprise for you?
Online or in person?
Either, both. Give us one for both.
Okay. Well, I don't know if anyone, I think the entire event in person was memorable just because it was my first time visiting. And I was really shocked. I expected it to be far more formal and maybe for them to be stuffier. And they were very relaxed and it put me at ease. And online, it was just the sheer number of contacts you were able to make just because it was online. So I'd say those were the two most memorable parts of the face-to-face versus the online.
So one of the things you bring up is something that I think a lot of people have repeated, where they think it's going to be too formal. And I mean, I think what everybody to a person has said that it's actually the opposite, where you go and they're so grateful to see you, like you're their constituent, and they're like, we do all that other stuff and we, you know, that's our job, but this is why we do it. Like, we want to hear from you. And so I think everybody was surprised about that like this is their opportunity. It's a treat for them to get to talk to constituents.
Absolutely. Like I said,
especially since we're not yelling at them, like we were giving them solutions.
We're like, here, this is a good idea that you should take.
Yeah.
And right, you come with a solution. So I feel like that eases the conversation.
It did. And I do have to say that, I mean, kudos to the team, because we've heard back from the staffers. They're like, you know what? One, we love you because you guys are always polite. You don't come in screaming at us and you don't bring problems that you don't have solutions to. And two, you bring solutions and they make sense and you tell us how to get there. So, you know, so whenever, you know, what we want to do is we wanted to leave Capitol Hill to where if they saw another military spouse, they're like, oh, this is a group of people who know what they're talking about. Let's listen to them. Absolutely. So I think that's so cool. Okay, now Nora, where are you, Nora? Where's the baby? That's what we all want to know. But seriously, Nora, you're a newlywed spouse. So tell us why you decided to get involved, and, you know, kind of maybe share some advice for those spouses who are new to the military and who may be a little bit more nervous about getting involved because they don't understand the chain of command and they don't understand how it might impact, you know, a career or such.
Absolutely. So I'm a fairly new military spouse, but the Army life is not entirely new to me. My dad was in the Army for 21 years, so I'm just seeing things from a different perspective now. One of the first reasons right off the bat I got involved was seeing all the work my mom went through, similar to Susie's story of how you weren't allowed to work, or there's all these restrictions, or like someone's husband's commander was involved, and just all of these stories that today seem just out of this world, that they were even a possibility really not that long ago. But to any new military spouse looking to get involved, I would say just jump in. and just go for it. It's the best way to network if you're thinking about starting a business or have questions about the business that you are starting. You build this community of spouses, both the active and retired, all over the country. And what better way to make a change than be your own advocate and tell your own story?
No, exactly right. And you actually stormed virtually, and it was like a baptism by fire. You've been married for less than 2 years, and we're like, okay, not only should you be a spouse, but here's what you should do. And this is stuff that more most of the people who stormed were more seasoned spouses who are like been around the block a while. We know where the right and left boundary is, but you really took a leap of faith. And like, what would you say to other people? Like, is it that scary? Like, I want to say it's not scary, but they're probably looking at me going, lady, you're ancient, not listening to you. But fresh face Nora, I will listen to.
I don't think it was scary at all. I think any advice is welcome advice, especially when it's coming from a fellow military spouse. You know that it's always a group of people who just have your best interests at hand.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate everything you did to help us pull together. And Nora did a lot of the work in pulling together the collaterals. So when we say baptism by fire, we really mean it. And since we have some time, I wouldn't mind hearing from Rihanna and Jennifer Mewett about your experiences, because Rihanna, of course, you were in charge of like the social media aspect of it, and Jennifer, we were handling the logistics. And so what was it like for you guys, like revisiting with a lot of the Senate offices that you visited and congressional offices you visited last year? And I know that for Jennifer, some of them, it was not even like a new conversation. They remembered you and they're like, hey, so where's the legislation now? What do you need us to do now?
Yeah, so what was really interesting about last year was because we storm on Military Spouse Appreciation Day, which is an awesome thing. I really appreciate, Sue, the idea of turning a day of appreciation into a day of action. And it was really great to be on the street and on the Hill saying, hey, Senator, hey, Congressman, like it's Military Spouse Appreciation Day. We're active duty military spouses. You want to talk to us. And I appreciated my Congressman Brown out of Maryland, and my senators, both. We not only talked to staffers, but I had met each one of them, and they each stopped to say, we appreciate your service as a spouse, but we're looking forward to what you guys bringing to the table. So the in-person process was really awesome. The difference for the virtual was it's a little lonely during the day when you're storming by yourself or with a partner. But because we were virtual and in touch with each other all the time online, that this year I really felt part of this tribe and this community of spouses who believe in this as much as I do. And I am not a young spring chicken like Nora, but I remember when I first came around and I had a commanding spouse tell me, you're just going to lose your career. You just got to get used to it now. And that's heartbreaking to hear. So it really feels awesome to be a part of an organization and a day that is so, that I can be passionate about, and I feel like I can be a part of a change.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I appreciate you being part of the journey too. And Jennifer and I had some really interesting conversations, because what we found is as we were visiting our congressional members, some of them wanted us to then go visit with the committees because they were on different committees.
Right.
So out of one of her meetings, we actually went and met with the Committee on Small Business Entrepreneurship. So we were able to hand deliver our white paper on entrepreneurship to that committee. And then what we did this year as part of storming was actually put together a focus group with military spouse entrepreneurs to give feedback on the programs that were working, weren't working, and where improvements could be made. And then as a result of another roundtable, we spoke to a subcommittee of Veterans Affairs who was looking to revamp transition, right? They were wondering how TAP was working for military spouses. So that allowed us to put together another focus group during Storm the Hill on military spouses who are going through transition or about to within 2 years or had been in the last 2 years. And we gave like pointed takeaways, and then to have the committee then come back to us and say, hey, how would you improve transition? And I'm like, hey, I bet you don't expect this, but I have an answer for you. And I have feedback from actual military spouses. So that was really cool. I mean, like, it sounds like a cool event. It sounds like it looks like a cool video, but we really can't underscore how important what you guys do is. So that's why I like when I got emotional about saying that you guys really advocate for 500,000 military spouses, you really do, because you're the voice, you're the tip of the spear, right? You're the people who are going to be out there in front first. And so I appreciate everything you do. Rihanna, how about you?
Well, for me, I have a unique situation as my husband is in the National Guard, traditional status right now, and is also a government contractor. And he has a unit, he's stationed with his unit actually in Reno, Nevada. So that's not where I live. I live in Virginia, right down the street from Sue. And so I got the unique opportunity to not only storm, local, just to show my support for the people who are assigned Virginia, but I was storming for a state I don't actually live in. And I learned a lot about those senators and congressmen and their own personal interests, as far as a lot of them working with National Guard specifically on the high suicide rate. And also one of them is part of the small business committee. So it was also a learning experience too, just to kind of see more about the people that are representing our interests, because I don't think that's something that anybody thinks about, really, like all the committees they belong to and the conversations they're having. So it was very interesting for them to be like, oh, you live in Virginia, but you want to talk to me? And I was like, yes, my husband's unit is there. So I think it was kind of a learning experience for them too, to know that guardsmen who don't live in their state serve their state. And that's not very unique across the country. So that was just another thing. That was another thing that was cool.
And that is very cool. And we had one of the senior spouses from the National Guard in Louisiana, and what she'd mentioned is, guard transition is very different from an active duty transition or a military discharge. And so it was really interesting, because one of the feedbacks we gave right away was, you can't make a square peg fit into a round hole. You have to look at transition from many different buckets. So I really appreciate everybody here and on Facebook for being with us, not just for the viewing of the video, but for the more important part, which is this discussion. I mean, if we could bring more people into this discussion, we get more of you to storm with us next year, then we can make more of a creative impact. These conversations continue long after Storm the Hill ends. I mean, Jennifer can attest, and I think Nora also, and a bunch of you that we work with, we continue these conversations. Storm the Hill sets, it's almost like the starting line. Storm the Hill is kind of like the first 500 feet of the race, and then the rest of the race occurs behind the scenes when we continue the conversations with staffers. And we went back and forth with staffer, and we're really thrilled to announce that our request for a report on spousal unemployment made it into the Senate version of the NDAA. So now it's going into conference. And so now, and then you learn, you're like, well, we need to work harder on the House to make sure it's on the House side too. So every year is learning progress, but we hope that we have more spouses joining us on the journey next year. So mark your calendars now, Military Spouse Appreciation Day, we will be storming again. There'll be another white paper. There'll be other issues we tack on for spouse employment. And there's still time to contact your legislators now. An issue's not dead because we stopped storming, if only, right? Contact your legislators, make sure, hold them accountable. If they're not voting on the spouse issues that you want them to, let them know. They want to hear from you. They can't read your mind. So, I think that's my big takeaway. And then the other thing is, this video is a great mechanism to start the conversation, which is what it was intended to be. And I don't know, Bill, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not supposed to be, tell all the stories. It's supposed to make people want to hear the rest of the stories. So when you share the video, be open to having that conversation with your civilian friends and say, yeah, no, this legit is what it's like. Our unemployment numbers are crazy high. And yes, in COVID times, it's even going to go higher. So we're all responsible, right? Our little group can care about spouse unemployment for everyone, but we can only do so much. And I would challenge all the spouses out there to advocate for yourselves, because Jennifer Barnhill is going to tell her story. She's going to tell it very well. And so will Jennifer Mewett and Nora Anderson and Rihanna. Everybody's going to tell their story, but you have a responsibility to tell your story. If you believe in spouse employment, you think it's an issue worth fighting for, you have a responsibility to get into the fight. I'm going to exit my soapbox and give everybody an opportunity to say last words. Our fearless leader, Mike Kelly from USAA, and Bill Deutsch, do you guys have any last words for everybody?
Mike, you want to go first?
I was going to let you go first, Bill.
Okay. I just want to thank everyone for the work in putting this together, and Sue, your allowing us to come in and create this video. If anyone we're obviously well connected in the employment space, and I'll give everyone my email address if there's any way. I know we're living in this virtual world and sometimes networking can be challenging, but I encourage everyone to, continue to use the tools that are out there with LinkedIn and other resources to connect with other people. And, my email address is bill@hiringamerica.com. And if there's anything that I can do in terms of opening up my network, whether it's just advice in terms of whether in the industry we're in and more in the media side, but if it's connecting with employers or other organizations, we're very tied into a lot of different organizations because what we do. And so I'd be happy to, connect people or advise people to the extent that I'm able to. So, but thank you.
Write that down.
Yeah. Hey, I just want, this makes my heart very, very happy because this is what I live for, right? I'm the most blessed person in the world to be able to work at a company like USAA and advocate for the military community and especially military spouses. So to see this group together, to see the video come together when it came from an idea of, hey, this is what we're focused on. Let's help tell the story of our partners on the outside. So that's who we are. That's what we love to see. And I'm just really excited to see this come to fruition.
Thanks, Mike. And Nora, can you say something on behalf of the spouses?
On behalf of the spouses and the NMSN team, Sue, I just want to thank you for your leadership and your guidance, not only on this Storm the Hill, but for everything you've done in NMSN for the past 10 years. We could not do it without you leading the way. So thank you, Sue, for everything you've done.
You almost made me cry, but you didn't. So somebody else is crying tonight. Nice try, Jennifer Mewett. Jennifer teed that up. Nice try. And there's somebody on this call and somebody here that we really, really want to thank. And she doesn't know we're doing this. And Maggie, we are so grateful to you. You have been such a terrific partner and teammate for the past 5 years since you started working with us. And we tell this story all the time. When we were on a road show, Jennifer, I'm going to call you out. We flew out to Seattle. We flew out to Tacoma, and Jennifer Mewett, for some reason, thought it was a really good idea to buy a tuna fish sandwich out of a vending machine.
Oh, I remember this story.
In Boston, and carry it in her warm bag all the way to Tacoma and eat it like 5 hours later. I'm like, the only way that could have been worse is if you'd eaten sushi out of a vending machine. So we were supposed to have like this root beer social for the university president and his veterans committee staff, but Jennifer was like doubled over in pain. So I look over and I see Maggie. She's got Jennifer on this push cart, like doubled over in pain, and there are flowers surrounding her that we're putting out at the event. And then, like, I swear to God, it was uphill both ways to get that cart to the event. But Maggie did it. She wore heels and she did it. And that's the level of commitment that we've gotten from Maggie and the USAA team for so many years. And okay, this might make me cry. So we really appreciate you, Maggie. We already miss you. We love Chuck and JJ. I've worked with both already, but like, Maggie, you bring a special level of engagement. And then until I see Chuck and JJ wearing heels pushing a cart up a hill.
There you go. I want to see that too.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But no, thank you, Maggie. Thank you to everybody. So Maggie, do you have anything to say to all the spouses out there who you've done such a great job of serving and mentoring? And
hey, before you say anything, Maggie, Maggie has moved on to a new role. So she is no longer in the military affairs team. She will always be a part of it for sure. But she's into a new role and doing some exciting things in another part of our company. So I just want to make sure everybody understood that you weren't supporting the military affairs team anymore, but still at USAA.
Yes. And thanks, Mike, for sharing that. It has been my tremendous honor to work with this team of professionals. I can't tell you what I've learned from you over the years has just made my heart so proud to know that there are people in this world that are as concerned as I was a military spouse growing up and in my military spouse life decades ago. It just makes me so proud to see you doing what you're doing and this team to get together and to make such an impact on the world. And I know that we're waiting to see how the COVID numbers are going to impact military spouse and underemployment, but I have such faith knowing that there are, tremendous entities that are out there doing tremendous work, as you all are, that are going to support and take that military spouse to the next level and provide them the tools that they need to succeed, whether it be corporate America or an entrepreneurial endeavor. And that's what I'm working on right now at USAA. We're going to be launching a new product here pretty soon for our small business owners. So I'm very, very excited and blessed to be able to grow within a company that is dedicated to making sure that military families are secure. And so I take every lesson that I learned with you, Sue and Jennifer and the entire National Military Spouse Network, and I take it to a different platform, and still supporting that military family at large. But I will never forget the experiences that we've had, and I am just so comfortable moving on to my position that I'm going to be in, knowing that you are just going to take all those military spouses along your journey for decades to come. So thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Cheers, Maggie. Thank you for everything.
Oh, my pleasure and honor.
And I think that kind of ends the event, you guys. We're going to stop the live stream. And if you have any comments, drop them in there. If you have any questions for our guests, we will get the answers to you. So drop them in the comments and we will get those answers. But thank you so much for joining us. And I hope our guests stay around for a little bit. Bye, guys.